Hallo, добрый день, herzlich willkommen. Ich spreche heute Abend Englisch und herzlich willkommen auf dem Livestream auch. Ich spreche heute Abend Englisch. Wenn es Fragen gibt, dann es gibt natürlich die Live-Chat-Box und ich kann auch in Deutsch antworten oder später bei E-Mail. Welcome everyone, also on the live stream. I'm happy to be here. This is the third lecture of the three-part series, The Horror in Us. My name is Richard Pettifer. I'm critic and theorist from Australia, based in Boston. Tonight we have a 1-hour lecture with translation support available in Ukrainian language. 15 minutes is planned for Q&A if wanted, which will be without translation and in English. Welcome to those also joining via the live stream or time shifting this later. You can type your questions into the chat. I can see them here and I can answer them during the Q&A session. I won't talk to you very much during the session. I'm going to privilege the live humans in the room, but you're welcome and thank you for joining. Some reminders. Although these lectures are partly in response to the 2022 and ongoing full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I am not from Ukraine and consider discussions about self-determination and independence of Ukraine to be led by people that's from there. Although these lectures borrow a lot from feminist sources, not so much tonight, but the others, yes. I don't identify as feminist and I identify as anti-misogyny, anti-patriarchy. So these are borrowed arguments, mostly the last two. I acknowledge my former professors at the Secret Coven of Cinema Studies Department of University of Melbourne. Thank you for introducing me to some of these sources we used in the last 2 weeks. Less tonight, but that's adjunct professor Angela Dadalianis, Dr. Randy Haslam, and Sage Walton. Thank you very much. Also want to say I don't come from queer perspective and have almost no background in this. And everyone should be able to see this paper translated into Ukrainian tonight. Projection continues on the back wall for those here. The auto-translate option should be available. If you're watching by live stream, you can choose this by pressing the CC button in the bottom corner, probably there. I can't do this. There. I think it's there. Okay. Little recap. In week 1, we looked at Carol Clover's conception of the final girl as a potential model for female agency and the slasher subgenre in its punishment of women's desire and perversion, ultimately settling on this as a response to this punishment or coercion by looking at Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. In week 2, we examined The Weepy as an example of post-World War II cinema, targeting women audiences, but with similarly restrictive attitudes towards female agency and sexuality, as well as almost no women filmmakers working on those films. That's 1940s, 50s period. With particular renditions of contemporary women-led porn and especially post-porn movement, seen as containing answers to questions of the male gaze and patriarchal apparatus posed by Laura Mulvey, brought together in Linda Williams' work on buddy genres, which are porn, weepies, and horror. Today, the focus is a bit different, and we will look at some of the consequences of male aggression unleashed in the form of the so-called pickup artist and its adoption by the rhetoric of particular politicians and others in public or semi-public spheres. All this I consider a type of social violence, so these will be my warnings tonight. If you feel uncomfortable during the live part of the event tonight, you can clear out a response and we'll stop. You can leave. It's not supposed to be an attack on you. I openly acknowledge that these examples are minimum uncomfortable, high-level misogyny, and I think it's normal to react in a defensive or dismissive way if you are used to being the target of these attacks. However, and also if you're not actually. However, it's also good if we can understand and laugh together at them. which is partly why I'm bringing them tonight. The fact they aren't widely understood as attacks is part of the reason why I want to do this lecture, and makes it necessary, I think, for these things to be in public discussion. And I hope that it's understood why I might see it as necessary work, despite the obvious problems of giving these dudes academic legitimacy. And this is the last part of that, by the way, in Ukrainian. I'll leave it there. With the second US presidency of Donald Trump coming up, as he's a poster boy and uses a lot of their rhetoric of the pickup artists, with his running mate and with whom he won the election recently, James David Vance, it is likely that the rhetoric and worldview of pickup artists gains even more of a foothold in our daily life. I also want to acknowledge Larissa Consinu and especially Zanra Popescu for supporting me developing many of these concepts in 2016 during Trump's second presidential run, which ended in him becoming president. I do not promote the books. I do not promote Trump. I do not promote online misogyny, and I'm active against these things that I am mentioning in the lecture today. The second part of the lecture will focus on how we might resist this with my own concept, superhumanism, which I developed over the public talk titled The Superhumanist Manifesto in the Radical Imagination Conference at Now, Antwerp in 2019, as well as the 2021 paper, The Artist is Absent, published by University of Tartu's Methodist Journal. By the way, I'm not promoting myself, but upcoming, I have a paper published by the Theatre Institute Bratislava called Collaboration and its Discontents, and that contained a very content collaboration with Tetiana Krechno from University of Kharkiv and Ksenia Yanko about our beloved Culture Worker Studio project, at the moment based in Flutgraben FL, the building where we are today. They are available here. Is that true, Richard? No, it's not true. It's not true. They are not available here, but you can request to them. With some other publications over there on the table from me and authors I will mention tonight. With that in mind, thank you to Hanna Lyashenko, Anita Kobylenko, and my colleagues at Culture Worker Studio for supporting me here in this series of lectures, and public in private for this beautiful theater space. Okay, let's go. Let's look at this asshole. Contemporary pickup artists or online misogynists begin, in my view, with Neil Strauss's 2005 book, The Game, a New York Times bestseller and type of romance novel for men. In the book, Strauss tells the story of his adventures as a seducer under the alias Style, integrating with a community of men targeting women for sex by manipulating and trapping them through psychological techniques. Their objective is to unnoticeably remove women's agency, who they refer to as the target, by using an innocent-seeming maneuvers that attempt to take advantage of certain vulnerabilities which develop socially through the performance of women's gender, including some limitations such as not being allowed to ask for intimacy directly, being seen as rude for saying no, and others like this. As Strauss puts it, quote him, "Women breed with seducers who understand how to trigger, through words and touch, the fantasy parts of the female brain." Pickup artists exploit these vulnerabilities, which develop autonomously within the self-esteem of someone performing as woman under capitalist patriarchy, while Strauss offers a handbook of approaches to make it happen, all the while excusing his weaponization of gender and avoiding responsibility for this in various ways, most noticeably in the tagline on the cover page, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." The book begins with Strauss's introduction to the world of pickup artists, who are essentially various types of broken and insecure men. As he learns more, the protagonist explains his shock at the realization that all his life he had been let down by our parents and friends had failed us. They had never given us the tools we needed to become fully effective social beings. At various points, he describes his own feelings of inadequacy in particularly emotional ways. Quote, all your emotions are going to try to fuck you up, as well as covering their natural human responses, which they see as weak. Quote again. They are there to try to confuse you, so you know right now that they cannot be trusted at all. You will feel shy sometimes and self-conscious, and you must deal with it like you deal with a pebble on your shoe. It's uncomfortable, but you ignore it. Strauss describes at times feeling robotic, forced to repeat exactly the same routine over and over again with the same openings, routines, and negs. While the routine was always the same, the results stayed the same as well. What contemporary misogynists call mastering the language of women, while also seeing them as simply, quote, measuring instruments for giving feedback. Their ultimate objective is one of domination and control of a woman's emotional reality. I had entered her world and demonstrated authority over it. End quote. For your familiarity, here are a couple of the manipulative strategies which are part of their weaponry. Some of them exist in everyday life and are not deliberately constructed or manipulated. So just because this exists in someone's language does not mean that they're using this strategically. However, this list is a small one of their tactics. First one is a neg. This one is quite popular. Has anyone heard of this? Yes. An ambiguous insult spoken socially that sounds like a compliment and provides a mix of affirmation and degradation. I just made up a couple of examples. Well, you really let your hair out tonight, so you don't know if this is like a good thing or not, you know? Didn't say your hair looks good, just said like you let it out. Or your eyebrows are so unusual, it's fantastic, which is like, what did you say that? My eyebrows are unusual. It's supposed to confuse you with a mix of validation and degradation. Second one, peacocking, wearing noticeable and flamboyant clothing. Some people do this not for manipulation reasons. I'm just excusing myself. I do this all the time. Social punishment, rewarding desired behavior and punishing bad behavior. That one's not exactly specified, but this is all punishment reward systems, social punishment and reward systems. Social proof, demonstrations that your behavior is socially accepted by others. This is having a circle of friends that you can show to the target that you say, look, they love me, so you could also love me. Pre-selected, demonstrations that you're also desired by other women and the target will need to compete with the other women to get you. To achieve the objective of conquest, the pickup artists follow certain rules. Here are a few of them from the book. Some of these are also from the online misogynist, but most of them are in the book The Game. Lower a woman's self-esteem, the target, while actively displaying a lack of interest in her. The second one, a cat will chase a string until the string is within its grasp, and then it will get bored and walk away. So it's sort of like don't give someone too much or something like this. Third one, show value. This one is really capitalist sense of like show that you are worth something as a man, which means status, job, things like this. Use games, jokes, participation activities like fortune telling, cold reading, magic. Again, these things can also be innocent. In Culture Worker Studio, we super love magic, for example, and fortune telling. Okay. Uh, next one. Women are constantly judging a man's value in order to determine if it can help them with their life objectives and survival and replication. This one is like hypergamy, which is sort of towards the bottom, but it fits with a very cynical view of women. Seduction should unfold as a story where there needs to be mystery that you are showing yourself slowly during seduction process. Only male-to-male friendships are allowed. No friends with women. Not allowed. Okay. Women want to make the bad boy good, but only good for them. And this is like a mythology story that's sort of like, don't be nice to women, stuff like this. And then what they actually want is a bad boy who then becomes good for them. This is like, supposedly this is something that women work for. A woman's internal emotional world has no relationship with what's going on outside and is an entirely constructed story. So something that can be manipulated, in other words. Withholding attention or freezing out is a strategy that they use and talk about in the game, but also these people will look at later. Hypergamy, I mentioned, an idea that women will always trade for a better option, and this is part of their natural selection strategy. Don't give any rewards, don't buy gifts, don't buy drinks to a woman that you're not sleeping with. These are part of the reward system. Okay. What characterizes the game is a set of negotiations playing out in a social situation which seems natural, but actually contains certain levers that can be pulled, buttons that can be pushed, especially in relation to gendered social expectations. If the outcomes were limited to a bar, that would be kind of annoying. I'm understating this, that would be super annoying. But unfortunately, even in 2005, Strauss was pointing out that the metaphor of the game is a larger social one that affects how people interact in increasingly strategic and cynical ways. So I mean here, outside the bar. He quotes, I quote him, "Religion is pick up, politics is pick up, life is pick up." So what's wrong with this, some may ask. The game constantly participates in talking about the essential nature of women, or gender essentialism, which they view as key to the social assumptions around dating. Together with Neo Strauss, they propose ways to use social expectations against women to manipulate and control the outcome. This removes the decision-making component for women, which is itself key to establishing consent in heterosexual dating. Together with the other male influences, Strauss also plays on the fantasy of control in male audiences, who are also a type of target of the game and also the online misogynist, as well as their low self-esteem, which is specifically what they target. Although Strauss has more fun with this, like plays with this more, and is also more self-reflective about it. You could argue about this if you're familiar with the game. In my opinion, he's more reflective about it, and that can be a good or a bad thing. Like, he's not a dumb guy, which makes it in some ways worse that he wrote the book. And without as much violence, you could again contest this point. The problem, if you're against these things, is that they're also correct to the extent that heterosexuality is a normalized mode, patriarchy exists, and these things will be true, more or less. The situation exists where the system can be manipulated. Again, while the system exists, negative feedback will also be irrelevant. Strauss even uses quotes from feminists such as Gloria Steinem or Catherine McKinnon, and even self-describes as a feminist in 2017. Like any autonomous anti-fragile system, critique is built into its functioning, and the primary defense of the misogynist is that they are, doing women a favor by seeing them as they truly are. Women cannot ask for what they want under patriarchy, which is intimacy in this case. Therefore, I, as a pickup artist, am helping them. While the game may seem like a fairly innocent and even funny and theatrical concept with its magic tricks and peacocking, things have accelerated with the coming of social media influencers. Contemporary misogynists have taken the principles of the game and pushed them in new dystopian territory, finding wide new audiences and generating an even deeper cynicism in their categorization of women and the situation of imbalanced resource distribution under capitalism. I'm going to show some examples now. I'm not going to name these guys because they're basically the same in what they're doing. They're basically interchangeable, including some of the more famous brands like Andrew Tate, who is currently under multiple criminal charges in the UK, including tax evasion, and in Romania, accused of facilitating organized illegal sex work and sex trafficking. So clips 1 to 9 coming up. Massive trigger warnings. Remember that it is not real. They are producing emotionally triggering content. This is the point. And they also depend on this for their feelings of authenticity. Please look at it, if you can, with some distance and as a joke, because these guys don't deserve to be taken seriously. Nevertheless, should be given some attention because of the reasons that I just said. Okay. So this is about 5 minutes worth of stuff. I will skip over a little bit when I feel like doing that, just because it's like, all right, we get the point. We don't super want to look at these dudes for any more than need to.
Yeah, and I was very successful with the webcam company, and you know, I still do it now, not as big as I did, but I still do it. I've got some of my best girls with it. But anyway, the point is, yeah, in that course, I teach how I got girls and how I got them to work for me, and I realized that weaponizing your attention is the only thing you have. That's the only weapon men have in the sexual marketplace, your attention. Typically, men give attention to get sex, and girls give sex to keep getting attention.
So that's your primary kind of tool or resource.
That's your only resource.
Yeah.
Because even you talk about money and all this shit, that's all garbage. The only resource you have is your attention. And the reason it's so difficult is because now women get so much attention for no reason.
Yeah.
Then why does your attention have value?
Yeah.
So you have to put value on your attention.
Yeah.
So then how do you put a value on your attention? And like once again, I explained this in the course by saying everything that's valuable, like gold, is scarce. So I don't give my attention to any girl I'm not banging. I don't follow you on Instagram. I don't fucking like your pictures. Like if we're not talking and literally actively going somewhere, you don't get my attention because that's what gives it a value. And then they start sitting there and start liking your pictures, start thinking this dude ignores me.
Yep.
It's like, well, it's because I've got too many girls on the roster right now. I ain't got time for you.
They're waiting for that follow back.
They're waiting back.
You're like, nope.
But most guys are so thirsty.
Yeah.
And because once the girl knows that she could get you, then she loses value. No, he wants to fuck me, duh.
Yeah, they want the fantasy, they want the mystery, they want the story.
Absolutely. They want and it's the same with us men. I say this to all the guys I coach. I say, how many times have you had a girl and she was good on paper, but she was just too available and you couldn't be bothered?
Yeah.
So imagine it from a girl's perspective. You're way too available for her. It's not too complicated. And the crazy thing about all of this, and I try and teach this in the courses, if you approach this all like a game and you can be very cerebral about it, that's fine. But if you just make it who you are, it's fucking easier. Yeah. For me, it's who I am.
You're saying, so like Rolla talks about like internalizing it. I think that's what you're saying here.
I've just become that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. You don't want to fuck me, I don't want to talk to you.
Yep, fuck off.
That's it. It's not a game.
Yep.
And that's not me being a horrible person. It's like you don't want you don't want to give me what I want. I don't want to give you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Well, your time's valuable. You're gonna die someday. I don't know when it's gonna be. I don't know when I'm gonna die too. Yeah.
So when I'm on Twitter and I'm arguing with these feminists and I say I don't have female friends, they're like, oh, you're a misogynist. Like, no, I don't want to sit around and buy dinner for a girl I'm not banging. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. If I want to sit and talk, I'll talk to guys. I don't see what I'm talking to a woman about unless it's leading somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, or we have a relationship. I don't see what the platonic. We're going to discuss Vampire Diaries.
Yeah. I'll talk to guys, so I don't see what I'm talking.
A woman is more attracted to a man who gives a little bit of mystery. So let me give you an example. Let's imagine we went on a date. Let's imagine, yeah? And you asked me my job. And I said, oh, I do this and this and this and this.
No. What would you actually say? You wouldn't say this and this. You mean?
No, I wouldn't. I would never tell a female my job. But let's say
what would you say?
Let's say I run casinos. I own casinos in Romania, right? Let's say so. I picked you up. We're in the Lambo. We go out for a nice dinner. And I say I run casinos. Alternatively, you say what's your job, and I say I look after my people. That's my job. But the point I'm making is the story you're going to construct in your head is actually going to be more interesting to you than the truth. You're going to say, well, my man just 25 grand on dinner, pulled up in a $400,000 car, looks after his people. What does that even mean? And it's going to be more interesting to you. When you watch a horror movie, what scares you is not the ghost that's on the screen. It's the thing you don't see. It's just walking and there's noise, you don't see anything, and then bang, it comes out of nowhere. That's how human mind works. A degree of mystery is extremely intriguing to the human mind. So it's extremely intriguing to the female for her man, it's the first thing. And it's also extremely intriguing to the child for their father. Dad's home. Oh no, the whole dynamic of the house has changed. Everything's shifted. Dad is home. He's been away and now he's home. Whether it's positive or negative, that has an impact on you, has a genuine effect on your psyche. I see so many fathers who walk in the house and the kids are just playing a video game. Dad walks in. They don't give a shit. Is that parenting? Are you a good dad now because you're home every day? That's why all these dudes are punks. No one can question what I'm saying when it comes to being a father or parenting, because I was raised in a very specific way, and I'm one of the greatest men on the face of the planet.
If a woman leaves you, dumps you, or cheats on you, the only thing you should try to do as a man is you should 100% try to make sure you can sleep with between 1 to 3 of her best friends, and here's why. By you sleeping with a few of her friends, what this is going to do is it's going to show that, number 1, you have good game, number 2, you're a pre-selected man, and number 3, she missed out on all the value that she could have had with you. You have to learn a little bit in life how to play hardball. I think that we live in a day and age where men are just play it too safe. You know, they're too scared to play hardball. If she has a pretty friend, you say, hey, I know that I'm not with her anymore, but you know what? Me and you should get ice cream. And then you know what? The next friend that she had, hey, me and you should get ice cream too. And then the next friend, hey, me and you should get ice cream too. And you know what? Pretty soon you got a nice little reputation that you're a guy around town who's wheeling and dealing, you're scoring deals, you're making sure that the women are loving you. And guess what? At the end of the day, then the girl that you were actually in love with or the girl that you wanted, she sees, maybe I made a mistake. This right here is going to actually elevate your social status. This is going to elevate her perceived attraction of you because you've actually demonstrated pre-selection and that you can still attract other women. This right here is a hidden secret that you can use to make your dating life way better.
When I take a look at every single one of my dating experiences, every single one of my relationships over the past 10 years, from ages 18 to 28, here's what I can tell you. The more that you care about anything, the more that it will imply that you have a lower SMV than her. The more it will actually imply that you have lower dating value than the potential other options that she could have or that she could go out on dates with. And here's why. By you caring about anything, this is why I'm telling you, you have to really let this sink in. Women need you not to care in order for them to love you. There is no standard. There is no expectation. Okay? Nothing. When I see you, I see you, and when I don't, I don't. You think she likes you? She doesn't like you. She doesn't care about you. You think she actually is genuinely concerned with your well-being? No, and she never was in the first place. You have to understand this. She is concerned with her own emotions. She doesn't like you. She only likes how you make her feel or how you made her feel in that exact moment. And the second that those feelings fade, the second that those feelings don't feel the same as they did day one, is the second that her emotions stop working in your favor. And it's the exact second that her emotions will work in a different guy's favor. And eventually she will be bored with him, and the cycle will repeat. You have to understand, you can't put time, energy, and emphasis into these relationships. Okay, a woman's emotions will constantly be changing. That's why if you focus on you 24/7, you make yourself the best that you can be, you're now a star that shines so bright, it's like you can't be unseen. You have to be seen. You shine that bright. This right here,
this is why love does not exist, okay? The feeling of love is nothing more than a discrepancy between both people's SMV, okay? Between both people's sexual market value. That is what love is a discrepancy between the two. The women that you really like or that you really want to be with will not like you back in return.
Why do men talk to women? Men want sex, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you want protection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he decides, you know what, I don't feel like it because we got in a fight. You would look at him crazy if he didn't protect you, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because it's his duty to protect you, right? And it's your duty to provide him sexual satisfaction.
Yeah, but I feel like a guy should be more understanding.
Oh, okay, you should be more understanding that you got your ass with them. I didn't feel like it that day.
No, that's just wrong.
Now it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? My duty is way more dangerous than yours. Because I'm expected to potentially lay my life on the line. All you gotta do is lay on the bed.
Listen, there's times where things are off, 100%. But generally speaking, if your man has some needs, and that's your man, why can't he come to you?
Controversial take. This is why I always say you need to have multiple women. I don't believe in being monogamous because of shit like this. I don't wanna. I'll tell you that. Women don't know how to properly behave when you admire them and put them on a fucking pedestal. Because they get put on a pedestal all the time. The worst thing you can do is pedestalize your girlfriend or a female that you're dealing with. Because all you're doing is behaving like all these dumbass niggas right here on the screen that you see. So it's your job as the man, as soon as you get the girl, to pedestalize yourself so she looks up to you and feels like you're the prize. Because when a woman feels like she's the prize and that she's better than you, that's the beginning of the end of the relationship. Because that's what she experienced before she met you. And I'm assuming if you got her, you were able to have some semblance of superiority to her. That's why she gave you a chance. It's your job to not fuck it up at that point. But my friends, this right here, right? And this is a very average looking woman, FYI, just so you guys fucking know. Right? From a looks perspective. Look at how her phone is blowing up. Guys, women all over America, their phones are like this.
Cool. How's everyone? Do you want to talk about any of that? Do you want to, any like responses? Can just open this up quickly here. Like, not really. We got through it. We did it together. Everyone feeling okay? Right. So, yeah, SMV, sexual market value. You can see some evidence of this freezing out idea, creating status, story in your heads. Yeah, stuff like that. Super exciting. Okay. So the ideological reality that the misogynist build is one where women are like furniture with no subjectivity and no agency, and your value as a man is directly related to the extent one's value as a man is directly related to the extent to which control and manipulation happens. This is very similar to the outcomes of the male gaze and patriarchal apparatus for Mulvey, Williams, and Clover, but what's the difference here? Firstly, it's disciplinary violence, I argue. While the male gaze distributes power through its women as object, man as bearer of the gaze construction for Mulvey, the unnamed misogynists activate this dominance into the world of social contingency, where beliefs are networked and reliant on each other. So if you believe this, then you must also believe this. In a way that's similar to white supremacy or other vicious ideologies. Do you want to turn the light back on just so that it's slightly more friendly? Yeah, thank you. Thanks for turning it off, though, as well. As this starting point is deeply cynical, they can build a reality that exists in a void of despair, freeing them from any accountability and offering a version of absolute freedom available under capitalist patriarchy. The equivalent of this, in their view, on the side of women is a sex worker, the main target of their hate and an object of continual obsession, who they categorize as someone who devalues a system of patriarchal morality in relationships to the point where she, almost always an imagined she, would put a price on them, on the relationship as a commodity. This makes her both autonomous and imminently controllable, confirming their deepest suspicions of womanhood and also earning their grudging approval as an entrant into their dark world, where everyone is equally broken and therefore somewhat comforting to them. As Strauss states in the opening of the game, quoting the writer Dostoevsky, an intelligent man cannot become anything, only a fool can become something. Furthermore, the choices of deeply violent examples refer constantly to deep threats of male violence. So examples from the clips that we showed. and especially the threat of sexual assault, also the domain of red pillars and incel misogynists. Therefore, accepting the tacit terms of patriarchy also involves an acknowledgement that male power is in the end absolute and unchallengeable. That at any moment not me, could take a gun out and kill everyone because that is what men are biologically wired, biologically programmed to do. As Strauss states, quote him, a significant percentage of violent crime, from kidnappers to shooting sprees, is the result of the frustrated sexual impulses and desires of males. Socializing guys, he calls it socializing, whereas making the world a better place. So, what a hero. Right. While Strauss says this in a soft way and uses the word socializing rather than teaching to attack, what it really means is you women will do in the end what I say or I will end you. Something like this. This is also repeated in the character of Frank T.J. Mackey in the film Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson, 1999, played by Tom Cruise. So this is an example from a fictional film. We go back to filmmakers now. And this is Paul Thomas Anderson making a caricature, a exaggerated version of one of these guys in 1989. So this is 6 years before the publication of the game. Okay.
Respect the cock. And tame the cunt. Tame it. Take it on head first with the skills that I will teach you at work and say, no. You will not control me. No. You will not take my soul. No. You will not win this game. Because it is a game, guys. You want to think it's not, huh? You want to think it's not, you go back to the schoolyard and you have that crush on big-titted Mary Jane. Respect the cock. You are embedding this thought. I am the one who's in charge. I am the one who says yes, no, now, here. Because it's universal, man. It is evolutional, it is anthropological, it is biological. Oh, it is animal. We are men.
So, also to point out, while there's no direct relationship between sexual assault and these misogynist influences, you can see how one can lead directly to the other, and lead to huge amounts of violence against women. The game and its later derivatives in the online misogynist influences define and formalize a set of tools that aid the misogynist in his rampaging and unstoppable war against women. Although it's tempting to look at pickup artists as a specific phenomenon relating to dating cultures, many of the concepts they use refer to a deepening cynical political context, and a political frame increasingly determined by biological factors, of which gender essentialism is one component. Biopolitics is a term first introduced in the 1950s, but expanded on by Michel Foucault in his conception of biopower in the 1970s History of Sexuality, and later contested by Giorgio Agamben in his conception of bare life in the book Homo Sacer, 1998. Biopolitics refers to the government distribution of power along biological factors, and when discussing biopower, Foucault sees these as increasingly the dominant form of mode of government. So if you're familiar with these concepts, I'm just going to give a very brief overview, actually almost an insulting overview of biopolitics, just because it is necessary inside the argument. It's just not time to put it in the paper in a proper way. So his first pole here is disciplinary. We're just going to quote him a little bit. Here it is. The second formed somewhat later, focused on the species body, the body imbued with the mechanics of life and serving as the basis of the biological processes, propagation, births, and mortality, the level of health, life expectancy, and longevity, with all the conditions that can cause these to vary. Their supervision was effected through an entire series of interventions and regulatory controls, the biopolitics of the population. He's talking about the system of governments related to biological control. In History of Sexuality, this biopower was without question an indispensable element in the development of capitalism, which made possible the controlled insertion of bodies into the machinery of production and the adjustment of the phenomena of population to economic processes. How does such an idea as biopolitics play out on the ground in the gender essentialist worldview of the pickup artist? Within this logic, the main tool of the online misogynist and pickup artist is one of acceptance, that in order to accept the place in a biopolitical order, a woman must accept her role as child-bearer or child-giver, and the tacit assumptions that come with that, including social assumptions. Furthermore, if a man does not enforce that role, then he loses his power inside the system of patriarchal capitalism and will also lose his status, his job, etc. As Strauss states, that's why we were in the game, quoting him, that's why we were in the game. Sex wasn't about getting our rocks off, it was about being accepted. Agamben further complicates Foucault's reading of biopolitics with his concept of bare life in the late 90s, which discusses the sovereign citizen stripped of all but the most necessary functions in order to stand as a model for the distribution of resources. Again, these are just a couple of quotes. We can talk about Agamben more in the Q&A or come back to these important essays. So quoting him, his stand-in for human is called he. He has been excluded from the religious community and from all political life. He cannot participate in the rights of his gens, nor can he perform any juridically valid act. What is more, his entire existence is reduced to a bare life, stripped of every right by virtue of the fact that anyone can kill him without committing homicide. He can save himself only in perpetual flight or a foreign land. And then in his famous discussion of Nazi concentration camps, thus the structure in which the state of exception is realized normally. The sovereign no longer limits himself to deciding on the exception on the basis of recognizing a given factual situation, instead laying bare the inner structure of the band that characterizes his power. He now de facto produces the situation as a consequence of his decision on the exception. The citizen here stands at a precipice of their ultimate threat and is unable to move outside of the bounds offered to them, originating in the sovereign state, therefore reproducing these hegemonies such as gender essentialism. It's important to mention that both Foucault and Agamben, including in Agamben's later comments on the COVID-19 pandemic, which are caused small scandal if you know them, are critical of this distribution of power originating in the state. They are critical perspectives on biopolitics. Others are less critical and instead deploy these tools for their own benefit. One of the key exponents of this theory is the psychologist Jordan Peterson, who is often held by red pillars like online misogynists also, or their communities. I don't know if you call this, I don't call this community, but people around these ideas, as a theoretical basis for their victimization, which comes from a supposed lack of acceptance within the order defined by biopolitics. JP mixes together a completely bleak view of humanity with some surface-level commentary about masculine power delivered in an extremely emotional way. Here are some random examples. I'll probably skip through these like even more than I did before, because it's...
Men who prefer short-term mating opportunities are psychopathic, narcissistic, Machiavellian, and sadistic. So one of the unintended consequences of the sexual revolution is that the freed up women have been delivered to the psychopathic men. If you're just naive, if you're just nice, if you'd never hurt anyone, you've never hurt a fly, you don't have the capability for any of that, why would anyone ever take you seriously? You're a domestic animal at best, and a rather contemptible one at that. And it's a very strange thing, because you wouldn't think that the revelation of the capacity for evil is a precondition for the realization of good. But I believe, first of all, why would you be serious enough to even attempt to pursue the good unless you had some sense of what the consequence was of not doing it? You have to be serious about these sorts of things. It's not the game of a child, right? It's the game of a fully developed adult. We have Pride Month. Well, what are we celebrating? First of all, how about we don't celebrate pride? Pride's a cardinal sin. And you might say, well, they don't mean pride. They mean it's a group of oppressed people, and now they're just finding their identity and they're getting some security in that identity. And so what they mean by pride is security in that identity. It's like the word's pride. That's the word that was chosen. And it's pride in relationship, as far as I can tell, to nothing but hedonistic self-gratification. It's like your identity is going to be your sexual desire. That's your identity, your sexual desire. So that means you've reduced your identity to the most immature and hedonistic part of you. The part that would exploit someone else for your own gratification, for example. The part that would exploit you for your own gratification. And now that's your identity. And now that's what we celebrate. Yeah, no, that's a very bad idea. Sometimes your gaze can be forcefully directed towards the abyss, and then you're traumatized. If it's involuntary and accidental, it can kill you. The more it's voluntary, the more transformative it is. And that's part of that idea about facing death and hell. It's like, can you tolerate death and hell? And the answer is, this terrible answer is yes, to the degree that you're willing to do it voluntarily. And then you might ask, well, why should I have to subject myself to death and hell? I'm innocent. And then the answer to that is, even the innocent must be voluntarily sacrificed to the highest good.
I love that guy's reactions. It's a worker. Aaron, last one's like just him attacking gender change. It's super not interesting. So, yeah, and what's his problem with pride also? There must be some, I mean, this is just a small clip. I suppose he has some definitional point about pride. If it's something like, pride is defined as this, therefore you should not use it as the word to symbolically represent your celebration. It's probably a point like that. It still sounds fucking weird to me. It's like, yeah, it's just pride. Like, it doesn't, like, why choose that and attack it? It's just sort of a strange thing, even if that's the context. You don't see the context in that clip. I'm not apologizing for him. Not surprisingly, he's hugely anti-trans and specifically hates people getting sex changes, as this for him is the definition of interfering with system of power that's biologically determined, emanating from the state and originally from God. I think we've seen enough of him. Imagine him saying insulting shit. Okay. Peterson positions himself constantly as a heroic defender of the social order, protecting a source of male power that is conceived as under assault, while also occasionally acting as disciplinarian, which is part of the patriarchal role and makes him something of a father figure to people that watch him. Almost there. Donald Trump's entry into the 2016 presidential race and eventual victory of the candidate Hillary Clinton was reliant on many rhetorical strategies also present in the pickup artists, and which also reinforce the essence of Foucault's biopower and biopolitics generally. So this is just going to be a couple of quotes on Trump and then a little bit of context about those. So on Mexicans, quote him, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. You can see like some evidence of neg inside this. Former Senator John McCain, he is not a war hero. He was a war hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured. These rhetorical strategies set Trump up as someone whose approval we need to meet. So as in this case, as a political citizen, you're always trying to be approved by him. That's how he positions us. When talking about women, Trump often sets himself up as a reliable guardian or protector who they need. Quoting him, I cherish women. I want to help women. I'm going to be able to do things for women that no other candidate would be able to do, and it's very important to me. And using these strategies, the president brings rhetorical and aggressive manipulations of the pickup artists into the political domain. He and running mate James Vance suggests constantly at the poor quality of contemporary life, evoking an army of childless cat ladies as to blame for this, and then positioning themselves as the answer to these problems and therefore worthy targets for the approval of voters. This strategy functions well in regions where patriarchy is stronger, and there's generally increased codependency because of that, and because of poverty, such as economically depressed or rural areas of the USA, and in today's version is heavily reliant on an alliance with tech bros like the entrepreneur Elon Musk to deliver election victories and offer an appearance of progress, like there's a future. It's kind of the future, because otherwise, and even with Elon Musk, this is an extremely conservative agenda. Trump is politics reduced to rhetorical strategy with nothing concrete to offer and everything existing in abstract. The only thing left to shape reality is to shape reality using words, meanings, stories, etc. Vladimir Putin's exclamations regarding cancel culture offer important indicators as the way in which cultural power is centralized in contemporary context. In a press conference, he stated, they're now engaging in cancel culture, even removing Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich, and Rachmaninoff from posters. Writers and books are now cancelled, and later compares the situation to J.K. Rowling's public transphobic attacks. Recently, they cancelled the children's writer Joanne Rowling because she, the author of books that have sold hundreds of millions of copies worldwide, fell out of favor with fans of so-called gender freedom. We can see in that rhetoric a clear signal of victimhood, but attached to a malevolent global ideology that attempts to attack different types of marginalization by occupying its space. In this, agents of cancel culture find their most significant obstacles, that the same approach to emotional protection may be equally deployed against them. Isn't the repeated claim of the invaders during the invasion of Ukraine, you need to acknowledge our narrative? I heard this a lot on the other side. Isn't this a twisted perversion of the Me Too claim to victimhood? Is it not similar also to the outrageous claim of the pickup artists or incel groups that their sexual dominance must be satisfied or they will rampage? Where the pickup artists, Peterson, Trump, and Putin base themselves on a bleak view of humanity, confined to biological responses and low cynicism, there are alternatives. And now I'm going to try to, after all of that, transition to the second part of the lecture, which will be about watching superhuman films together. But I'm going to tie in a few things from the previous part. So, in this clip from the film Deadpool, protagonist Wade, aka Deadpool, meets the character who would become his girlfriend, Vanessa. Both accept each other's perversions, including Wade's darkness and Vanessa's sex work, and this radical acceptance becomes a source of erotic fascination for both of them, facilitating their re-entry into the biopolitical order.
Whoa, 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 baby. Are you sure you want to shoot your whole lot?
Tight.
Vanessa.
Wait, what's a nice place like you doing and a girl like this?
I did that.
Buck, you best apologize before... Yeah, that.
Say the magic words, fat Gandalf.
I am sorry.
Breathe through the nose.
I don't have a filter between my brain and my...
There you go. Okay, hey, ho, Hakuna Histatas. He's sorry. Get out of here, go. Go cast a spell.
Hey, hands off the merchandise.
Merchandise? Huh. So you, bum fuzzies for money?
Yep.
Rough childhood.
Rougher than yours. Daddy left before I was born.
Daddy left before I was conceived.
Ever had a cigarette put out on your skin?
Where else do you put one out?
I was molested.
Me too. Uncle.
Uncles. They took turns.
I watched my own birthday party through the keyhole of a locked closet, which also happens to be
your
my...
bedroom. Lucky, I slept in a dishwasher box.
You had a dishwasher? I didn't even know sleep. It was pretty much 24/7 ball gags, brownie mix, and clown porn.
Who would do such a thing?
Hopefully you. Later tonight? Hey, what can I get for $275 and a Yogurtland rewards card?
Baby, about 48 minutes of whatever the fuck you want. And a low-fat dessert.
Did she just put a gift card in your mouth?
As well as being a deeply subversive film, Deadpool is also an example of what I will call superhuman cinema. Here, I will briefly try to propose superhumanism as one means of contesting biological hegemony as expressed through Foucault's biopower and Agamben's Bell life, as well as the online misogynist. So, just looking at the time, so this next section is a little bit short, but I might try and, it's not that short. I'm going to try and skip through it a little bit because actually it's already 1 hour and I'd love to hear your questions, have some discussion as well. So this is like a concept of superhumanism. This is my theoretical concept, and it's basically watching stuff together. That's what it's about. Watching stuff together, participating in it, and having discussions about it, and this as a way of achieving solidarity and lifting each other up. Good. Cool. I will pick and choose a little bit. What is our fatal attraction to the so-called Marvel Cinematic and DC Comics universes? Why this unstoppable gravitational pull towards what is surely just a morbid commercial recycling of the same content? Isn't it that, as the film director Martin Scorsese spat out recently, superhuman films aren't cinema, where nothing is at risk? On one level, the superhumans of Hollywood draw out age-old criticisms of Hollywood conveyor belt, devoid of new ideas, simply regurgitating profit-based content. Yet, on the level of reception, as Will Brooker in 2002 suggests, it would be a stupid act to rob these films of affording access to a special type of agency, one which floods through a variety of cultural production. Yeah, let's do this. Although remaining significantly under-researched, fandom, as well as being now an explicitly commodified practice, increasingly so, is simultaneously a site of fluidity in identification, wish fulfillment, and helps for overcoming bleak circumstances through the innate power of the super subject. Not only do these films turn a profit out of wish fulfillment, even if they are narratively banal variations, or perhaps because of this, they also point to an existing lack which is filled by the film's transcendental power. As Rancière states, what human beings contemplate in the spectacle is the activity they have been robbed of. It is their own essence become alien, turned against them, organizing a collective world whose reality is that dispossession. The work of Will Brooker on Star Wars fandom, called Using the Force, which is over there, I will summarize a little bit. So Will Brooker kind of looks at the behavior of fans in 2002, specifically Star Wars fans, and how they behave when they're like watching their favorite films. So these are often films that they've watched 100 times already, and they will organize special viewing parties where everyone gets together, sometimes in costume, but not only in costume, and basically watch the same film that they've watched 100 times. And this is their like social event. So their participation in this and has some specific characteristics which Brooker goes through, like quoting lines, giving sarcastic commentary, talking about what the filmmakers should have done, talking about like the companies that are making them, also specific artists working in the films and so on. And they do this in like a playful way that's almost a type of re-authorship and a type of reclaiming of the film, which would otherwise be like the authorship would obviously be out of reach for them. They can't direct their own Star Wars. So this is their like way of re-authoring it, claiming power over it again. It's easy to dismiss these performances as naive interactions with text. Yet, at the end of the chapter, Brooker remarks on the specific bond formed with the viewer participant. Once it was established that I had a similar level of expertise and enthusiasm for the saga, we immediately had a vast bank of shrewd references to draw upon. This is him together, watching the films together with the fans. Furthermore, Brooker notes the transgressive potential of the shared viewing experience, and that for 120 minutes of viewing, the hierarchies were so fully dissolved and replaced with new ones. Is it not possible that these exchanges, especially when undertaken in relation to superhuman texts, like Empire Strikes Back, become not only a collapse of hierarchies, with the creation of a referential universe that attempts to escape a cataclysmic condition on Earth? Can this not be a collective overcoming of human limits, up and into a fantasy space, where we might finally meet the ethical demands of being human, and at the same time imagine these not as limitations, but overcomings unto themselves? This would be a clip This is an example of a watch party. We can just check it very quickly.
I do love this part right here.
I do. Oh my
This time
god!
you gone far enough.
No. I do love this because as like when I first saw this, I was like, where'd they go? It doesn't show anything, and then like they show that in the back, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and blubber fat follows them. How much sparbage do you think that the Imperial fleet?
See, and no dialogue. He just
One difference is that like they you know, you can see a lot of stuff on the internet now that's kind of like performing for an audience, but here they're really a community. Like they're not trying to show anyone anything. They're just talking about the film amongst themselves. There's no PR involved really in that. It's a lot of bullshit. They even say that it's bullshit. And that's the point. It's them, it's just them talking. All right, do we need to do this? Yay. Jeez. I'm just trying to skip a little bit because it's so late. Right. From the collision of reception studies, phenomenology, fandom, sociology, and ecofeminism, earlier in this essay, a new performative philosophical gesture arises. The gesture comes from an identified need for a new conception of spectatorship that identifies a state of being beyond the human, a collective transcendence into the field of human exchange, material interaction, and interconnectedness. The over-under of the Übermensch from Nietzsche is reloaded as an up, and into set of conditions similar to those identified by Paul Gilroy's concept planetary humanism and Heidegger's being in the world or Dasein. To this extent, the superhuman is not exceptional individuals, as in the Übermensch, achieving what for us mere mortals is impossible. To fans, it is a concrete and repeating reminder of the locked-outedness from conceiving the world, from the perpetual movement of philosophy, up, and out of reach. Trapped within an increasingly apocalyptic scenario of material living, the fan plays with a particular contradiction, an inability to re-author their circumstances, and a fantasy of meaningful collective intervention in them. The superhumans of Marvel and DC universes are manifestations of a concrete and bodily fantasy to intervene at the level of governments on those conditions that create circumstance of this inhumanity without aid. Superhumanism is thus not a suspension of disbelief, or the suspension of spectators themselves into beings beyond belief. So let's watch a tiny bit of this clip from Kick-Ass 2. It's very nice clip, I think.
Hi, Detective Williams. This must be Mindy.
It is. Hi, Brooke. So you girls have some fun, and I'll pick you up in the morning, okay?
I'll be the one with the slit wrists. No, you're gonna be the one that gets the awesome manicure. I am? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Say hey to Mindy, ladies.
Hey. I know you. You're that freshman who took a ride on Dave Lazuski's disco stick.
I did not ride his... If you just blew him. You're totes a virgin, right?
She didn't blow him. Look at her.
Then what? Rim job? Hand job? Finger bang? Sweet Ryan Seacrest, you at least kissed him, right? Totes. You've never kissed a boy, have you? Oh my god, that is so adorable.
Maybe she's a dyke.
Maybe I'll jam my foot up your snatch.
Oh, she's super bitchy. I likes.
And what's the big deal anyway? What could be so great about gagging on some douchebag's tongue?
It's pretty fucking great.
You know how you feel when you watch that video by Union J?
Holy shit, you don't know?
This will change your life.
You guys love this shit more than fanboys love Stan Lee, don't you?
Who's Stanley? What the fuck was that? I know, right? I'm soaked. That is who you are, Mindy. You may not dress like us or talk like us, but when it comes to boys, we're all the same. Twilight, Channing Tatum, Union J. It's biology, bitch. Don't fight it. I gotta go.
But we were gonna go get high on bath salts at Logan's house.
Mindy, I want to give you a chance that the rest of the girls in our class would kill for. Don't you want to walk out the door every day in skin-tight clothes, knowing that everyone worships you? Don't you want to sneak out at night, raise a little hell, and show the world what a strong, independent woman is capable of? Don't you want to belong? Can I wear this to Logan's?
Yay! It's gonna be so much fun.
Just trying to work out what I can skip through. All right, we're at the end anyway. So superhumanism is not located in any superior physical body, nor any other superiority different from the Ubermensch. Instead, there is a discernible pattern around collective spectatorship, in particular those examples attempting to refuse or supersede Eurocentric and inherently racist or patriarchal lines of thought, and which offer the most active and potentially transformative situations. Performance existing somewhere, elsewhere, and the creation of pop-up theaters around certain situations of spectatorship, particularly in relation to fan performance and interaction around superhuman texts, offer glimpses into what is possible in terms of collective transcendence through spectatorship. Far from marginalized them, these are the theaters that should be central to any radical transformational discourse, creating almost incidentally the chance to free the stage from some specific legacies of the historical development of humanism and the underrating of the human in certain anti-humanist discourses. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have some time for questions, I guess. I went quite a bit over time too. With someone brave, could you be so good as to take the microphone? Thank you so much.
Hi, I have one question. Why pickup artists call them like that? Like, why is it especially art?
Yeah.
Why they call them? Is it there some reason for this?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think you're saying this is a weird use of the word art, and I agree. It's a strange place where the word art appears. I think that maybe historically, the idea of pickup artist is connected with magic, actually. And so it probably comes from there, but this is just me speculating. It's like magical arts goes into pickup artists. So this is also why in the game they're using these magic tricks and so on, because of this like history of using magic tricks. Of course, like now the online misogynists don't do that anymore, I guess. They use like crazy manipulation. But I think that's my best guess about why. Do you have an idea?
Okay, maybe I also had an idea. They call themselves like artists to put them in a better light. Like we are not pickup manipulators or guys who just seeking for sex, but we are like artists. It's like art of seduction. I had only like that idea.
Yeah, can be like another propaganda tool. Yeah, I mean, you maybe heard in my lecture, and that was hard to get through, by the way, all of that. I hope everyone's like fine. I was like, yeah, been a rough week. I think that the artists, yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, what were we talking about? The word artists inside this context.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because I heard about the pickup artists like long time ago. Like I heard about this term and this naming, and even then I was like, why they call themselves like artists? And I also didn't know that it came from this book, because I don't think that I heard about this book before, maybe just briefly. So yeah, and I didn't know that it's like came from this book especially, so they like call themselves like this. Yeah.
I think the term pickup artists is older than 2005. But yeah, he does call them pickup artists in the game in that book. PUAs for short. PUA. Yeah. Yeah, weird term.
Yeah.
Weird term.
Yeah, that's why actually, when I first heard this term, pickup artist, I thought specifically about artists, because it's like in general weird. I thought that pickuppers, like in general, and pickup artists is different things, which is pretty weird. And from this lecture, I understand that it's same things. Yeah, and my question would be connected to the magic. Like you mentioned in the lecture that they used some magic tricks and things. Can you tell more about this if you know something?
I can tell you what I understand about that. It's like magic is something like I have a list of like, so just to say again, but I'll stop saying it. I don't believe any of this shit. I don't do any of it, blah, blah, blah. Magic, I understand, is they call it like chick crack. And there's a couple of other things like fortune telling and this type of thing. Cold reading. That's like a good like opener, a good distraction tool. Now it's like a cliche where people will make fun of it. Like, hey, do you want to see a magic trick? It's like a pickup line that people would make fun of, because it's a cliche. But I think that's the idea behind it is just to show, first to like control attention, and then to like do something that's like sort of like fun and not threatening, basically something like this, or that looks fun and not threatening. That's the strategy behind it, as I understand.
Well, I don't know, it looks crazy in general. It's hard to name a culture, like a community, but they even have their own language, like even their own vocabulary, and even their own techniques and stuff. Like even some guys do coaching and this, like maybe they even sell stuff on the internet, and it's really crazy to observe. And also, I just quickly Googled this Neil Strauss person, and he wrote for Rolling Stones and for New York Times. So it's really crazy that it actually goes into like big magazines that write about culture. And like, does this person, he did this in real life, like integrated in the community of pickup artists, like went through this and stuff and believed in this, or was it just an experiment?
Yeah, thanks for your question, everyone. He has something he writes in the beginning of the book that's like, this is all true, something like this. This is all true stuff. But some of it obviously is not. It's a mix of fiction and fact. Yeah, he did write for Rolling Stone, and those articles are available on the internet. I didn't mention that because it kind of gives him more power, and I don't really like. In the case of Neil Strauss, there's some.
That guy, who's is
It's this guy that wrote the book that I was talking about in that book.
did we saw videos with him or not?
No, there was a couple of interviews with him. I mean, his I don't know. Yeah, he's not good. That guy's not good. I can say that. Now he plays this transformed character. That's like, oh, I used to do that kind of stuff, but now I'm in a relationship, and that's really hard. And he wrote a book called The Truth in 2017 that even some counselors recommend for people with sex addiction because he had a sex addiction. Wow, I don't buy any of this. And I'm like, you read the game, it's sort of like, yeah, I don't know. Also, like, there's a chapter about Tom Cruise, him meeting Tom Cruise and what Tom Cruise has to say and stuff. But again, it's sort of like, and he has a published interview with Tom Cruise in Rolling Stone. So he probably met Tom Cruise. That doesn't mean that the story he's telling about Tom Cruise in the game is like an accurate and true story. He talks about the character that Tom Cruise played in Magnolia in the book. So he's like you call him like a good writer in the sense that he plays with fact and fiction and, manipulates things in this way. But yeah, why he chose this subject and to write about it in this way, that's sort of almost like a handbook, is like a separate ethical question, and in retrospect was not correct. You mentioning about the industry, I think it's estimated at something like $75 billion or something like this now. I think that's probably an underestimation, and these guys are, and not only guys. There's also like non-male people participating in this, I should say. This industry is huge, and it's like not getting smaller. Yeah.
Oh, so it's like crazy how they talk. Like there was one example, when the guy was standing in front of the whiteboard and explaining everything in economic terms, like SMV. It's like I was studying in German university here, and we had macroeconomics course, and we had all of these like shortened versions of the words like GDP, GDP, gross domestic product, and stuff like this. So they really turn it into economy, which is like, so is it really a part of the economy, as you were saying, like right now that like it's industry and stuff, like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big industry, and Trump's had a really huge effect on it. These terms that you were talking about, this is like pretty old terminology, and like established terminology, but there's new terms being developed. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, the terms are sort of funny, some of them. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, if you use a mic so the live stream.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was a little bit embarrassed with this question because I think I just traveled in my with my attention somewhere for a second, and I actually didn't catch the connection between the two parts of your paper, where at first you were talking about this artists, or so to call them, and then about superhumanism, and I didn't quite catch. Was it your offer in a way to respond to that, to fight that? How exactly that superhumanism supposed to interact with this culture? I'm sorry, I imagine that was pretty much the whole topic of the scene, and I just didn't catch this.
No. Actually, it's a loose connection. So it's not you going away. It's already a loose connection. And because I was running out of time, I also skipped some parts, which made it looser, I think. What's the connection? So, yeah, good question. Because I wanted to talk about these two things, and I only wanted to do 3 lectures in total. So I put them together, but they don't necessarily fit together. Okay. So what could we say here? It's something like one thing that the pickup artists and online misogynists rely on is isolation, is social isolation. So you watch these things on your social media mostly alone. Yes, you talk about them, you form communities with other bros. It's talking about this stuff, but it's a very lonely, alienating activity. So actually, that's a really quick answer and a really direct answer. That's like togetherness, viewing things together, including in some ways the way that we viewed things together tonight. It just creates a different type of, not a different type, a type of empowerment that can fight against this alienation. And that is like also a neat summary of superhumanism concept. Does that make some sense, right?
It actually does, yeah. I think maybe it wasn't even completely planned by you, but indeed this whole concept of like instead of atomization and like isolation suggests something that is a group experience, and for female from the female perspective to go through understanding it in the group is in a way more empowering. So now, yeah, starting to make sense.
Yeah, well, I think the best tools for fighting against online misogyny and these types of game strategies as they appear in bars and stuff is solid women to women friendships and groups and so on that look after each other and take care of each other well. I think that's also the most annoying thing for pickup artists because they can't isolate people so easily. So yeah, that's something that I would have said as well. There's a lot to say about the online misogynists, but it's very boring. It's very boring. It's been a very boring week looking at them, and like it sucks as material. I think it's like a good thing to try and do in a situation like we are tonight, but it's awful. Yeah, it's like looking at white supremacy or theory about environmental collapse. It does affect your psychology, and it does like suck to do it. Yeah, it's like, should we then do it? I think yes, sometimes. It could also say it's better not to. Yeah, at least to have some, because in this case, I know that there's some people specializing in this area and there's some more awareness about it, but I just think the guy's been elected a second time now, and it's like, yeah, there's probably some waking up that needs to happen about these connections that exist between pickup artists, the political rhetoric, someone like Jordan Peterson. It's like a little bit urgent, in my view. Yeah, I went from here to here, but I guess I answered your question.
Definitely, yes. And I would ask one more if you're pretty, if it's fine. More about your concept of superhumanism. Is there again, maybe you already unpacked it, but is there like core reason for this practice to exist in your opinion, like to develop this? Because as far as I understood, it's really about like this communal watching as like the main idea around it, right? Do you yeah, I'm a little bit of this practical person, like reason, goal, outcomes, stuff like this. Is there this practice as it is, it's more like just a group experience, or it's supposed to lead us somewhere, or like how do you frame it? Does it make sense what I'm asking?
It makes good sense. Yeah, I'm just trying to decide how much to go into it, because there's like, that's the end of the paper what I was reading from. So there's a whole justification for it in the first 3/4 of the paper. That's not anything about watching superhumanism films, which is superhuman films together, and it's actually about environmental collapse mostly, and how theater talks about and addresses environmental collapse, and how to be, especially how to be in the world. Because a lot of the responses that I was reading around this time from Donna Haraway, Jane Bennett, some others, seemed to me quite disconnected and not really working in a very material way. This is my observation. Also Timothy Morton with hyper objects and so on. It's quite an abstract approach, and I wanted something that was more contingent, more buried in social relations, more looking at things on a grassroots level or something like this. And especially with the posthumanism. So Rosie Berdotti's book is over there. She proposes this particular crisis between the anti-humanist and humanist fields of thought. So my superhumanism goes back to that conversation and proposes a coming down into field of social relations and a type of togetherness in order to like resolve these contradictions a little bit. So really summarizing, it goes in that direction, and then it's framed around Marina Abramovich's The Artist is Present work, 2011, which to me is really her entering into that field of social relations. That to me is what that work is about. Like descending from the abstract conception of artist into, so pick up off. No, it doesn't connect at all. The descending from that and really into a one-on-one direct relationship with you, the spectator. So I use that to frame that and say like, yeah, superhumanism can be a way of taking that symbolic and abstract figure of the superhero and putting it back into the field of social relations, which is in this case us watching a film and commenting on it and making jokes with each other and so on.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's a summary.
Yeah, in the beginning, there was like the name of the paper or something, The Artist is Absent. Is it the link into The Artist is Present by Marina Abramovich?
Yeah, that's the job. That's the name of the paper, which is in that Methus journal. Yeah, Artist is Absent. So it's just talking about an evacuation is maybe a good word. An evacuation from the field of social relations, or if you like, the slums. Martin Luther King uses this really nice analogy, which is also quoted in the paper, about it's like it's in the 1960s to say like someday there'll be a telescope powerful enough, like humans will have invented a telescope powerful enough that we can go to the moon and see the slums from the moon. Something like this. And it's like a really nice way of wrapping up like all this technological development, all this elitism that's occurring, and yet still people live in conditions of that are completely horrible. So it's like Dr. King also pointing out the contradictions there and saying like, how can you talk about technological process? How can you talk about environmental collapse in a way without being embedded in the everyday, the social, the convivial, as Paul Gilroy calls it in planetary humanism concept. This convivial everyday things. This is where change happens, not on the level, on this high elite level. What was your question? I answer you? Yeah. Oh, this is absent. Yes, it's talking about that evacuation or removal, which is also happening in a level of cultural production. People less interested in going grassroots, going, into that disgusting, dirty, corrupt work. Yeah, in my observation. Yeah. Just checking. I don't have anything to deal with in the live stream. Any more questions? Yeah.
I have one more question. What do you think our world would look like if like everyone would read this book, the game, and like view this world as a game and in a view of like main character? How would it look like in some time?
Really? Thanks again for the question. I mean, I think that everyone does read the game. They just don't talk about it. So it's like a lot of people know this stuff. So it's just not something that's discussed. And I guess I mean dudes, but like, yeah. So I guess I mean mostly dudes. What would it look like if everyone read it? Yeah. Like, I think that's happening, I think that it's like, for me, I guess, like, since discussing this stuff with male friends in university, like, you've seen how things have changed as the concepts have come into culture, how things have become more strategic in social sense, and how this, it's not just about, like I was trying to articulate, it's not just about being in a bar or something social, this seduction thing. It's about how we are with each other in negotiation. Also, on the political level, these ideas have really come into culture in the way that I observe it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but I meant like the same rules kind of working in a mirror thing with the woman and man. Like if woman would create this type of video and it has been created, there are like kind of women seduce things in TikToks also. And I mean, in the same time, men play their games and the women play their games. And in this type of behavior, how it would be then.
So is your question, how would it be if there was a game for women? If there was a book, The Game for Women? Or?
Yeah, if women read this book and view it from the like main character.
Yeah. Like, first I would say that, so I need to be like more able to talk as a feminist to answer your question well, I think. I propose that that is the deep suspicion of the pickup artist, is that this is how women work. This is already something that they think. Women are strategic. This is the hypergamy concept that coupling happens in a strategic way, and it's all women trying to manipulate you and so on. That the way that they see it is that they are creating a mirror of something that's already there. That is their cynical view of women. So that, what if there was a version of the game for women? I mean, that would be like a kind of a good feminist comeback and like a good idea in some ways, I would say. But that depends on your approach, on your feminist approach, whether it should be about revenge, whether it should be about making things equal, or actually, that there's like some, historical injustices that need to be like overcorrected or like, made into something, that's not just about equality, but it's about over equality, which is actually mirror my position, honestly, that these are historical oppressions that need overcorrection. But so I'm not answering your question well, I think. What if there was a game for women?
No, if everyone play the same game, like women and men, at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I get you, sorry. The thing is that, again, you need to be like more able to speak as a feminist to answer the question, Rob. But the reason that these things work is that the social expectation is different between women and men. And it works with that and plays on that. So the point is that women can't play the same game because the social expectation is different. And that is the thing that the pickup artist manipulates. So your question could be like, what if they were able to play the same game, or what if there was a different game where we could play equally or something like this? I'm not trying to tell you what your question is. I'm just saying, like, the whole point is that the whole point for them anyway is that the rules are different. And that's what they take advantage of. That's part of their strategy. Does it make sense?
Yeah, but you said that kind of this book game, the game is answer to kind of women's game that man created in their head.
Their perception of it.
Yeah.
The pickup others.
So it's a go
idea of how women think.
revenge of man to women's game.
Yeah, that's how they think, and that's the victimization that also Vladimir Putin has, and so on. That it's like that men are the victims historically, and so on. So then, from their perspective, there needs to be some revenge. But this is a complete fiction. Like, makes no sense. There's no historical evidence for that. There's plenty of historical evidence in the other direction. For example, in witchcraft, like Silvia Federici's book there, Caliban and the Witch. Just for example. One more comment in the back.
I just wanted to add a little bit about victimization. As a lover of true crime videos, I also watched a lot of videos about incels, which like did some murders, and of course before they did it, they wrote their manifesto, and like 90% of cases they wrote that they are victims and that like sex it's basic human need and that human can die without sex. So they also, a lot of them propose that women should give like social help, kind of, and give like free sex to men to prevent them from murdering. And that's very interesting position. Like, I am the victim, but please give me a help, so I will not murder anyone. And then they do not get it, and they go and murder someone. And then they get in jail, and they continue to say that, hey, I am a victim. Like, I killed these innocent people because I didn't have sex. And that's, I also see some, something similar with Putin's rhetorics. Like, I see the same, like, then like we are victim, um, because they very usually victimize themselves. But we're gonna kill you, and like that's I even lost a little bit the logic in all of this. But yeah.
It's something that I was talking about at some different points. I can't remember the words that I used, but it's like, do it or I will end you, or something like this. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, do you have like reflections on that sort of like, that's a very violent expectation, in my opinion. And yeah, like you can't have that expectation. It's awful, but like, I don't know if you have like, if you have reflections on that, it's just fucked, right? Or
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this victim position of misogynist like incels. And to be honest, I think that in most cases it's really like some mental disease, like lack of maybe attention from, maybe it was a lack of attention in childhood, and that's why they try to seek it in some sexual race. And like, yeah, they really become really angry on the whole world, but like it's not our problem. So yeah, that's a big discussion, like what exactly happens to them so they become that violent, especially to women.
yeah, I mean, I suppose I don't want to spend too much time and attention on the ESO groups. Like, it's just awful
Yeah.
subject somehow. I suppose that what they feel they're missing is like that sense of dominance and false power that comes from the type of interactions that they want. I mean, it's just the wrong way to think about sex and intimacy as well, which is such a diverse experience, and so not about penetration specifically, or just like, you fucking have like any type of emotional connections and intimacy. Like, it's just huge, the possibilities. So they get fixated on this one idea. Sex is this, because I'm not doing this, it means I'm not a man, or they're not. Well, it's like, it's get fixated and obsessed on that concept, and just get lost. But I mean, that is coming from somewhere. That is the expectation that influences like what we saw tonight. That's what they try to create. So it's not it's not coming from nowhere.
Yeah.
That idea, or it's not something internal. It's an external learned thing, not biological.
Yeah.
It's like it's a learned thing. And then like, all I can say to that group of people is just like, there's plenty of people that don't go on killing sprees because of that. You don't need to kill someone. And then there's also sex workers that like do that work. So like, you can employ someone, you can treat them well and with respect. That's what they want to do. Sometimes not, but like, create good conditions around sex work, and that can happen in that way. Like, for people with disabilities, for people who feel excluded from having sex, there is like options often. So, I don't see any justification for that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just to add quickly, what I noticed that those people gather around their trauma, who they had some trauma, like in a relationship or something, and that's why they developed all of these tricks and strategies and stuff, which I also observe. Like maybe it's also wrong observation, but it's like purely subjective observations of some of my like people whom I work with, not like not in the studio, but like in different communities. Yeah. But actually, my question was completely different, and it's a big pity that I have to switch the topic. But I really want to ask this question: uh, if you would be a superhuman, what superhuman you would be?
Um, I want to answer that first part a little bit. I mean, there's different ways to gather around trauma as well, different ways to connect around trauma. And like the way that incel people seem to connect around their sense of injustice seems like wrong way. Seems without solidarity, it's just an attack. It's not actually providing even any sense of emotional reassurance or whatever. It's just an attack, and it's not. Yeah, there's just nothing justifiable about it, in my view. Some people, I'm saying that because some people have a different conversation about it, and I'm quite black and white about this and just say like, no, there's no justification for it, full stop. You can have solidarity around other injustice things, and in this case, this makes no sense to me, quite black and white with that. Which superhuman will they be? I'd like to take some audience questions. I was like thinking about our experience watching the Edward Scissorhands the other day as a superhuman experience, although we didn't offer so much commentary during that film. But yeah, okay. So maybe Edward Scissorhands can be my answer. Yeah, that's like okay. But actually, I'm referring to the experience of watching the film, which was like a really nice identification experience for me. That was a shared thing, which is the whole point. Yeah.
Like you feel as a like outsider who got the same people, like.
Let's not psychoanalyze Richard.
Okay. Yes.
What about you? You know about
Yeah, maybe.
What does that make you feel? But
Well, you did answer your question, but I want to answer your.
let's say the Scissorhands. What have you got?
Well, I don't know. Like Edward Scissorhands is pretty nice. Superhuman to be, I think.
We can finish. We just like everyone the opportunity to say their favorite superhuman, and then we finish. Also,
Cool. Yeah.
I interrupted.
I don't know. I just can't came up with anyone else right now. Maybe later.
Can you invent a superhuman?
To invent a superhuman?
Yeah.
I would say like the other day I was just in U-Bahn, sitting in front of some people, and that's where I got randomly an idea of what a superhuman I could be. I was like, oh, and now I got this idea because the man, he was sitting like something like this with a beer, and he was like watching the guardians, like the Ordnung's aunt coming past him. And one of the guys from Ordnung's aunt said him like, well, like, can you sit properly, not like this? And that man continued to sit like this and watched him with this like with this gaze. So and I thought that maybe they will fuck with him, like they will get out of the train, and I don't know, there will be some fight. So what the idea I got, that I can watch people and observe what interactions, like what bad interactions will happen amidst them. So I will see or I can read minds and like, oh, I know that this human is up to stealing this human's, I don't know, wallet with money, or this human is up to killing someone. And I have a possibility to stop it because I know about it, that it's gonna happen, that like some people have these bad intentions and I can stop it. But because there's so many bad intentions, it's like, the choice to make, because you got your own life also. and you go into the rehearsal, but there is some guy intended to kill someone. So what are you supposed to do? Kill the performance or let someone else to kill other people? So yeah, I would be this human, like, who can watch.
Yeah, like intervene or
Yeah.
go nuts.
I would have invisibility.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And then superpowers question. Okay.
I would be able to be any particle of anything at any time, and I would have consciousness at that point, so I could actually understand what is happening.
Sure.
And that would be cool.
I like the idea inspired by the Sixth Sense to be able to talk to deaf people. Well, which maybe fulfill their not fulfilled dreams or words they couldn't say anymore.
Nice.
So this would be something I would really love to have as a superhuman power.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go on.
Towering. Easy. Yeah. Great. So thank you very much, everyone, and I hope I didn't abuse your time. We went a little bit over time. Want to abuse it a little bit further, just to say thank you very much to Hannah Yashenko for all of your support. This is for you. Please give her a round of applause. Yes. Wow. Thank you. It's been amazing 3 weeks, actually. Well, thank you for joining this lecture series, The Horror in Us. And let's do this again sometime. Don't forget to stick around tonight for the karaoke, which will also be, of course, broadcast on the live stream. And Culture Workers Studio is an incredible organization that will be hosting a fest on 1st of January.